right, next up, we've got the CFO of Akerna, John Fowle, for another company presentation. John, come on out. Give it up for John, guys.
Am I on here? Can you guys hear me okay? Good. Okay. Good. We're up and ready to go. Thanks for having me, folks. So today I'm going to walk through, and if this is too loud, I apologize. Today I'm going to walk through the Akerna story. We'll talk a little bit about Akerna through the lens of both an investor, but also, and probably more importantly, our customers. So a little bit about Akerna before we delve in. So we were the first and still NASDAQ traded company. We listed just about 2 years ago. A lot of you might know us by our predecessor name, MJ Freeway. That's where we started when we listed. We went through the rebrand and the uplisting, and now we're known as Akerna. But MJ Freeway is still one of our brands that we're out in the market with. MJ Freeway, founded by Jessica Billingsley, which, being new to the industry, I came to know Jessica is very well known, respected in the industry. She's a great entrepreneur and thought leader, and sort of that convergence of tech and operations. And so I get the privilege to work closely with Jessica. But like you said, my name's John Fowle. I'm our CFO. I've been with Akerna a little, or almost coming up here on 2 years. I actually came from outside the industry, and so I was unfortunately quite ignorant when I started. I figured it was cannabis, money fell from the skies and grew like weeds, and no pun intended, but came to realize it's a lot harder for us to operate in this industry, both as operators as well as service providers. And I think it's something we take to heart every day, sort of the challenges that we all have in the space. Did you do that right? Okay, so quick, some of our disclosure requirements, forward-looking statements. My lawyer told me to say that, but we can move on. So we like to start with this headline: the cannabis economy runs on Akerna. And it's a bold statement, but why do we say that? Because we were the first. Like I said, Jessica founded MJ Freeway back in 2010, this idea of seed to software technology. In fact, it's an interesting story. She was an investor in one of the first licensed operators in Colorado. And it's a great entrepreneurial story, an investor in one of the first operators. And there was this whole, oh my gosh, I got to do compliance. And so she went out looking for software, none existed. She's got a tech background and said, why don't I just build some for ourselves? And what started out just in her own business became the company, or the store down the street. And voila, 10 years later, here we are. So we think about ourselves as the technology backbone upon which the cannabis industry is built. We enable the compliance, the regulation, and taxation, and most importantly, allow you all as operators to run your business without worrying about compliance, and making sure the guardrails that are put in place by the various jurisdictions are taken care of, so you can focus on running your business. Now, through the investor lens, just a few investor highlights. Like we like to share overall number one in market share, with having tracked almost 24 billion since our founding. It's probably closer to 30 now with some recent M&A activity. We'll talk about a little bit how that benefits both us as a company and consumers, or our customers, through the concept of our data. We've got really nice software growth, 56% year over year. It's a combination of both organic and inorganic. We'll talk a little bit again about the inorganic strategy and sort of building this ecosystem of software and solutions to best serve the industry. Recently announced a new financing, about $20 million in cash on the balance sheet. Certainly as our CFO, liquidity and the strength of our balance sheet is at the top of my priorities. And I think we do a really good job sort of bringing that art and science together about how we manage cash flow, investing, and so forth of our business, but also being good stewards for our investors. On the bottom left here, we talk about our integration partners. So today we integrate with over 80 partners, the who's who in our space. We like to say we don't want to replace our customers' technology infrastructure. We just want to be part of it. And certainly as a consumer of technology myself, I appreciate sort of the value of open API, and that's how we think about our business. And then last, of course, the market. Obviously, everyone here knows about our market. It's really fun to educate investors on our space. Sort of the same thing. We all know the market. So in the interest of time, we'll move on. So this is really the nuts and bolts of it. Compliance is complex and mandatory. I get asked a lot, what do you do? How does it work? And I analogize a lot to sales tax. I have to deal with sales tax. If you're an operator, you get it. Sales tax is pretty much the last thing any of us want to deal with. And so in a similar way, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the compliance and the regulation that that you don't want to have to do it. The reporting requirements into the governments, et cetera. We service the entire supply chain. So from the grow, what we used to think of as all the way to the retail, but with a recent or about an acquisition a year ago of Sola Sciences, that really extends now to the consumer, and some really exciting coming to market soon, some consumer-facing technology that's going to drive a lot of adoptions and loyalty and so forth. We know as operators, complexities with government systems are significant, non-integrated workflows, things that don't talk, dual entry. I hear that a lot. I'm not an operator, but I hear about dual entry a lot, so we can really help mitigate some of that. And of course, compliance safeguards not being built in. So, the software really creating some of those rails with which to operate. So if we go a level deeper here, we think about maybe in these three, who do we serve? So again, the cultivation all the way through the consumer. I'll talk a little bit, and we'll go into a little more detail about the strategy. Again, sort of why is that valuable from an investor perspective, but also as an operator perspective. I think it's really a good and the right long-term strategy through both lenses. We own the mission critical infrastructure. That is really the key here. We own all of that compliance. It is our IP. It is what we do. It's what we've spent almost 12 years now building and being able to deliver that compliance solution. So to you and whatever ERP you are working in allows you to focus on your business, and we take care of those compliance solutions. So we serve the supply chain. We own the infrastructure, but we partner, acquire, or build. And this is also key to our strategy. So accounting and finance. If you want to roll out, for instance, our retail solution, awesome. We can pretty much run your entire business in your retail setting for you. But if you want to use QuickBooks or Intact or NetSuite or what have you, great. We'll integrate with them and we'll drive automation between your solutions. The regulators, we probably all know Metric and BioTrack. A lot of people don't know, but we also have Leaf Data Systems. That's our government solution. So we integrate with all the regulators and make that a seamless process for you. And then just standard integrations like I met before, whether it's e-commerce or what have you, right? We're able to bring those together so you can operate your business. Again, think about our solutions if you want, either being forward facing with your employees and their operations, or they can actually exist behind the scene. So this maybe we'll talk a little bit about our strategy, and the way I like to articulate it, and we'll go into some of the details here, is think of it as sort of this three-pillar strategy. So first of all, we talked a lot about the full supply chain, right? So from the grow all the way past the retailer to the consumer, sort of strategy. Strategy number one. Strategy two is the entire market, right? So we set out to really serve every legal jurisdiction. We operate both U.S., Canada, and internationally. I think almost 15 countries now. So we set out to do every legal jurisdiction. And then sort of what we depict here, which I think is really critical, is how we grow with our customers through their life cycle. So if you think about sort of the competitive landscape, there's lots of providers out there, and they're awesome. And I've seen their solutions and I've seen how they work, right? It's just the strategy is different, right? Maybe somebody focused primarily on retail, or someone focused primarily on grow, or I'm going to focus just on California or just Michigan. And they've built really, really good businesses. I think one of the earlier presentations, someone made a comment like, go big or go home. And I think to some degree that was Akerna and some of the early founders in the board strategy is like, we want to do something bigger. We want to do something transformative. And so how do we go after those three pillars? The entire supply chain, every legal jurisdiction, and certainly grow with a customer through its life cycle. So we talk about our partnerships, whether it's SAP on the high end or even QuickBooks on the low end. This last 6 months, we've made two really critical acquisitions that fill in sort of that mid-market section, and that was the acquisition of Viridian Sciences. You may know them. They were a provider of SAP B1. I'll talk about that in a second. Or 365 Cannabis, which was a Dynamics reseller with some really nice technology there. So if you think about sort of at the macro level, the story of a customer, single retail location, they're going to run MJ platform, maybe our POS, and they'll integrate with QuickBooks and they'll run their business. Great little scenario. We have sort of our down market, lighter weight solutions. No doubt those customers grow. They need more, right? They need more comprehensive solutions. So they're going to look maybe to NetSuite. We've got a partnership with them in Canada. Sage Intacct here in the US, or both SAP and Dynamics. And so the strategy between those two might look something like this. If you're a grower operation, we know SAP's got a really strong sort of ag ERP structure. And so customers might say, look, I see myself 10 years from now being on, S4 HANA, but I want to get into Business One today to sort of start that framework in the SAP world. Great. We can be your partner. Or if you're conversely really tied to the Microsoft suite and you really see that, great, we can help you grow with Microsoft. For what it's worth, I know a lot of my peers outside of our industry, I've seen companies grow into the billions of revenue with thousands of employees around the world from startup to where they are today on Dynamics. So you've seen a lot of the scalability that Dynamics has to offer. SAP tends to be, more into those bigger solutions, but what's great is you can keep those data sets with you. But every step along the way, we as a company get to be part of that journey. And again, as you grow in your supply chain, as you grow in jurisdictions, or even as you get bigger as an organization, we can fit with you. So as you think about maybe getting into like our pro or enterprise solutions, you might go, for instance, from a Business One up to an SAP, but what we can really do is just abstract that compliance from B1 and plug it right into SAP for HANA. So that history, the consumer history, the compliance history, all of that goes with you. It's, for us, that 3-pillar strategy and this whole customer lifecycle creates that really strong competitive moat that investors love to hear, but also the relationships we want to build with our customers in the long run. Oops. So all of that leads to kind of supporting the thesis of our strategy is our software was built for expansion. We weren't necessarily designed, or the thought was not, let's build it for the onesie twosies. We know if you look back at every major industry, they go through these natural evolutions. And so we sort of think of ourselves as, definitely in consolidation, we know that for sure, but it's really nice to see the professionalization and I feel like I joined the industry at a period of time that the maturation was happening. The focus on ROI was a reality. And I've had a great opportunity to meet CFOs of a lot of our customers and sort of dialogue about how do we deploy technology? How do we use this in a way that really drives ROI through my business? We've gone through this land grab phase. I got to start thinking about long-term shareholder value. And this is our strategy, right? Is we were built for expansion. Sometimes I use this analogy, it's 30 years from now, what is our industry going to look like? Is it Coke and Pepsi, right? Or is it craft beer? A couple major players and a bunch of others. But nonetheless, our thought was the best way to create that long-term moat through the investor lens as well as the consumer lens is being ready for that expansion. I'll touch briefly on something that gets often overlooked is data. We all know in our world, data is huge, big data, of course. So I'll talk about data through a couple lenses. First of all, we sit on, I don't even know, terabytes and terabytes worth of data that we have an opportunity to sell within our industry and give folks insights into what are consumers buying, why is flour popular here and edibles there, or geographies, what every single data point you can imagine we can give. So we see not only our customers use it to help them do better marketing to their own customers. We see them in strategic. They want to understand what's happening strategically in other parts of the country. Does it make sense for them to invest? We actually get a lot of interest outside of cannabis as well. If you think about the traditional CPG spaces, they want to understand what's going on in consumer patterns. So we have an awesome opportunity to sort of monetize that data stream and continue to deliver that both inside and outside. Now, for operators, it's super important what we can do for their actual business. So we have a really exciting partnership with Domo. Domo's got some pretty amazing AI software and technology that sits right on top of us. So if you're an operator, we give you insights into your margins, what's moving, what's not moving, what stale inventory is, what dynamics are buying what, and then how does that lead to maybe I should serve a coupon, or maybe I should serve discounts, or I should do certain things. So seeing our bigger customers start to adopt our Domo technology and drive those data-driven insights in their business is really, really exciting for us. So we think about our competitive advantage, more than 10 years tracked. In fact, Jessica founded the concept of seed to sale, trademarked it, and now it actually, if you go to seedtosale.com, it redirects to our website. So a lot of experience. We sit on years and years worth of data. Global operations, we've got a substantial footprint here in the US as well as Toronto through an acquisition up there. And then we operate in about 15 other countries. The full supply chain, every jurisdiction, your entire growth journey as a customer. the integrated ecosystem, which is great. We've got an extensive ecosystem that you can leverage different technologies to drive your business. The only company with cloud B2B, B2G, and B2C. So like I shared, most of our focus is on B2B. That's where we want to live, but we also service the government through our government solutions, and then excited to really get out to market with some of our consumer facing solutions that drive a lot of that loyalty and customer experience. And of course, the first NASDAQ traded cannabis company. Growth opportunities, we know all about these, lots of new licensures, expanding with an existing customer base. We want to land and expand. We want to grow with our customers. I want to give you more solutions, give you more products to run your business more effectively, deliver you more ROI. We know the regulatory environment is beneficial for all of us, which is really exciting, some of the direction that's going. And then, of course, inorganic, we've seen both within operators as well as ourselves. We know we've got major tailwinds, the world's fastest growing industry, regulatory environment. And like I said earlier, an industry that's focusing on ROI. It's been really awesome to have a lot of these discussions with my counterparts at our customers to understand how they see technology fitting in their operations. Of course, U.S. federal legalization, we know, is an inflection point where we watch it as regular as you do. And what that does, not only for operators, but for service providers, ourselves and our competitors and everyone who services this industry. It's in a really exciting time to be part of it, see what's moving. Of course, we all wish they'd move faster, but it is what it is. But certainly a great opportunity for us and everyone here in this room to take advantage. Our inorganic strategy, like all of us here or any traditional software company, you kind of start with your core idea, and then you build that ecosystem of products and services around it, like we talked about, whether Solo Sciences, which is consumer centric, or the business one, and Dynamics solutions that fill that area. So inorganic is a big part of our story, especially as a smaller emerging growth company. We think about them in different categories, whether there's really good technology fit, and we're very specific about the types of technologies we're going to look in. Geography is key for us. So we acquired Ample Organics up in Toronto, really powerful, strong solution that gave us a really nice footprint across Canada. And then our ability to execute as a public company, you've got a lot of flexibility there. We think about our targets into different areas, competitors, bolt-ons, new TAM. So all those different areas that we think we can deliver a stronger product, grow our business, and ultimately, provide better solutions to the customer. And of course, it creates those things that are important, wallet share and stickiness, et cetera. And really lastly, a focused on the exposure to growing cannabis sales. We get asked a lot, customers are up 200% and 300%, why aren't you? And that's not the business model. It's harder for service providers per se to the space to play in the volume side. And so as we think about sort of the evolution of our business, how do we get more tied to the volume of business and participate in your success at the same time? I'll end here with our management team. Obviously, you guys, a lot of people know Jessica. She's a great leader. I love to think of her as sort of this convergence between, leadership and tech and industry. And it's just interesting and amazing to watch sort of that go. I think it was Kim early on mentioned a comment about diversity. And I'm a big believer in diversity, not at all for political reasons, but I actually believe diversity does lead to better execution and thought leadership within an organization. And we have that within our group. For instance, myself and Nina, I'm from GE and Panasonic, Nina's from SAP and Nike. So we bring that sort of Fortune 500 perspective to a business. And conversely, Ray and David are emerging growth. They've helped companies grow through exit. And all of our perspectives, I think, come together to build really good diversity of thought and perspective as we try to go forward in our business. And we try to think about it as not, it's not a race. It's not it's a triathlon. It's a really big triathlon. And so how do we think about decision making today to do that? So really happy with our leadership team and sort of the thought we have there. Just a quick snapshot of our board. Same sort of thing, really diverse board, lots of folks who come from industry or software. We were excited to welcome Barry Fishman to our board. Earlier this year, he's been the CEO of a couple of public companies, both inside and outside of cannabis. So really good perspective there as we continue to forge this path ahead. So I think that's it. I'll take any questions if there are any.
Do you have a loud voice?
Yeah.
Go for it.
How do you prevent SAP from copying any of your product solutions? Do you have pretty strong non-competes with them? I've seen them do that to other partnerships in the past.
Yeah, good question. So if you go back to that layer we talked about, the compliance layer, that's really, really complex. We'll never beat SAP on actual functional ERP software. Not at all, right? The value of what we're providing is that compliance layer, right? So we have a partnership with SAP. So we're a certified integrated partner with SAP, whether it's, I think, ECC or S4HANA or what have you. And so I think there's this recognition that, SAP does what they do. We while we have ERP functionality, we're not competing with SAP. We can provide that level of service to customers who want it, probably in an area SAP would never compete. As our customers grow, and a lot of our customers here have sort of evolved off our platforms, and now they're going with the SAP for HANA, that's SAP's bread and butter. We'll just supplement the compliance layer.
All right, and the question was about competition with SAP, and that is all we have time for. Everyone, give it up for John Fowle from Akerna.
Thank you.
Thank you, John, very much.